it's one of those positions where even though the evaluation bar is saying roughly equal, I don't think this is an equal position for two human beings facing each other in a really sharp dynamic battle where White's plan is pretty straightforward, going for the Black King, and Black has to be extremely precise to hold that equal evaluation that the computer is suggesting. So equal in terms of if computers and humans play perfectly, then it's equal. But it's a lot harder to play this accurately from Black's perspective, I think.
Totally agree. Although I think we've done a good job pointing out that one thing Black probably doesn't want to do is play h6. You actually would like to leave White's knight and White's g4 pawn fighting for that g5 square. And I think that makes me think of something like a5 for Ding. I mean, just like being straightforward. Your opponent is attacking on the king side. You're attacking on the queen side. Let's open up lines and give the rook on b8, the queen on c7, and the minor pieces in waiting some chances to explode over there. And by the way, I was going to say right on cue he does. He moved a pawn. I thought he was playing a5, but he takes c4. Also interesting, that is the most straightforward way, right? The most concrete way to solve the problem. Big decision to Magnus now because he can actually take back in 3 different ways. Although I anticipate him taking with the b pawn seems to be the most logical. But maybe knight takes as well.
Yeah. Knight takes or b takes, certainly. He would not want to create a d pass pawn for Black by capturing with a d pawn, and b takes c4 is indeed on the board.
Yeah, knight takes c4 would have looked attractive, giving White a very strong knight on an outpost, but it would have also granted Black the d5 square for his knight. So I think Magnus reluctant to give Black any activity. So b takes, just maintaining the queen side. That's very tense. I could see this backfiring on White if White isn't able to deliver some kind of checkmate to the Black King, if Black's knights start creeping around towards the queen side. The Benoni pawn on d3 often becomes a huge weakness long term. Black's knight could jump in via b4 as well. Some launch pads, some weak squares in White's camp if Ding can get to them. It's a big if, but he has to try at some point.
By the way, I don't know if you see what's on the screen there.
Okay.
Oh, word of the day, Benoni. Ancient Hebrew name still occasionally used, meaning son of my sorrow.
Yeah, you gotta trust me.
I thought he made it up.
I never lie.
Oh my gosh, word of the day. You gotta tell people what to do with the word of the day.
Word of the day, you gotta use it on social media in a funny way. You know I love GIFs and Photoshop contests. We'll give away some diamond memberships. But yeah, word of the day. It's an educational show. So at least if you leave saying, I hate those commentators, I did learn something. You know, no matter what, you learn something on these shows. And in this case, it's the word of the day. It was massage yesterday. Massage. But no, today we don't see a lot of positions that are going to be massaged to victory. We actually did have several games where players pushed and won yesterday. None bigger maybe than Magnus Carlsen's victory.
b7 granted a question mark. And I wonder why. It looks very logical, Anna. Planting the bishop on the long diagonal. Potentially, ideally, kind of long-term. Trying to trade off for White's beautiful bishop. But why could that be a mistake?
Why is it a mistake? Is it that the rook is getting very, very awkward on b6, not having much space, and you can attack this rook with c5?
Does look tempting, right? Running out of squares. I guess the black rook could still sidestep, but maybe not the best kind of long-term file to sit on. It looks like maybe Magnus should be going for this rook at least to destabilize it, or maybe he'll keep that in his pocket. I think his last couple of moves, Magnus have suggested that he really wants to play f5 to go for the black king. We've talked about it for a while now. Magnus stepped back a knight to the e4 square on the last turn, so now f5 looks more viable. Maybe even g5 followed by very typical ideas of kind of bringing the white queen in, maybe a rook lift towards the king side, but it's all a matter of timing here. I think from a human point of view here, Danny, bishop b7, just healthy, logical.
Yeah, logical from a human point of view. I like the plan you highlighted, though, with g5 and the idea of coming in with queen h5. Although I wonder if black will just play g6 if you do it to kind of slow down the pawn storm. One of the things we talked about in an earlier round is that when you're launching a pawn storm against a structure that has no weak...
It's looking good for Magnus. It's a situation that's quite tense. He's ahead on the clock. I think his position, momentum-wise, looking favorable. Here we see it just in the bottom right of your screens there, but it's level material. We talk about the bishop pair at most levels. It might be a negligible factor, but here it could potentially play a key role. White's light squared control, White's light squared bishop, just unrivaled right now. And Ding is solid, he's got everything protected, but can he hold forever? I didn't see any real active plans for Black. How to break through? That's the big question for Magnus.
How to break through? Is there anything concrete, or does he need to prepare his position further? What do you do, David, in a situation like this? What does a grandmaster think about?
Grandmaster move, King H1.
I love it. And that's the kind of moves I think of, but then when I think of it, I don't think it is a grandmaster move. It's just an Anna doesn't know what to do move.
You know, it's funny. Sometimes our best and worst chess are very close to each other, and they're not far apart. No, but King H1 actually makes a lot of sense. You get the king out of a discovered check potential, and you clear the G1 square for the rook to start barreling down on the G7 pawn. So I couldn't tell if David was joking at first, but then the more I looked at it, the more I agreed that King H1 makes a lot of sense.
I mean, it's what I would play in a bullet game, Danny. Now you've convinced me. I can't wait for the Bullet Chess Championship, but King H1, it's one of those moves you save yourself so much calculation in future. You don't change anything because long-term you're doing great anyway. Yeah, this would land in a skewer, the White King on a vulnerable dark square diagonal, so shuffling it into the corner, not only positionally desirable, but coming with a threat as well. That's the dream, really.
It's funny because I know this looks bad for Ding Liren, and we've highlighted a clear plan, but he has managed to create a very solid hold over the dark squares, right? He's dominating the control of the middle of the board on the dark squares. Of course, if we ever see a trade on e5, that'll be an opposite code bishop position where he's comfy there. So as long as d4 doesn't just fall off in some tactical sequence where you lose sight of it. By the way, the Grandmaster move, grind like a Grandmaster. Shout out, shameless plug there for David and Magnus's course there. But it is true. Unless you lose the d4 pawn, you do have a grip, right? Magnus immediately threatens to take it. Maybe it's harder to defend it than I'm initially appreciating, but if Ding Liren can solve that problem, the dark squares are dominated, and he plays queen c5.
Yep, I know Magnus too well. King H1 was always going to happen. The bar did drop slightly. I was curious why, but okay, Ding protects his pawn. You often say, Danny, that we're playing checkers, they're playing chess. It looks like Ding's playing checkers, everything on dark squares. He's going to play King H8 in the near future.
And H6 to
Maybe
complete
H6.
the checkers. No, please don't. That's such a weakening move.
Yeah, but interesting, this light squared versus dark squared strategy. It's unclear which one is going to pay off.
If you can do things like double rooks on the G file and then just imaginary chess, grab that bishop on G2 and put it on D5, right? Just like leapfrog above the queen, then this is just phenomenal, right, for White. And there will be an attack that will probably become hard to stop. But it's not so simple for Magnus to coordinate and bring that pressure.
I think you're spot on with that observation, Danny, because the computer wants to drop the queen back to e2 so that then the bishop can appear on d5 and then you have the g5 for your rooks. He clearly needs to regroup his pieces.
Okay, there you go.
Logic. That's exactly how top players think, Danny. They see where they want their pieces. This bishop could be improved. It looks great, but on d5 is clearly its ideal home, and the players, they manipulate tactics, move orders in order to kind of achieve their goals. So,
did you just say I had potential there?
I mean, I think you fulfilled some of it.
Gave me one of those looks. You haven't given me that look all day. So just
Danny,
now.
I've been reserving it for the special moments. Queen e2.
But like, what's the plan is the question. I would think trying to take over the b file is a logical plan, but I don't know if rook b1... Or you could maybe play queen e2 and try to put the bishop on d5. Don't know if that does much. Or rook f... Like, I'm definitely thinking about like some queen e2, bishop d5, rook f4, rook h4, but maybe it's a bit too much.
We were actually looking at something similar. We thought it was quite promising. Some big attack. I mean, in terms of Magnus, do you think he's enjoying this? Is this up his alley?
I think he has really good chances to win this game. And also, like, the opening was a very, very good pick by him. He got a really tough fight, which I think he wanted. And he should be fighting for a win this game to fight for first place. So it was a good choice. I think like Ding has been consistently playing this reverse Benoni in the Grenke tournament, and I was thinking about it like to play it against him, but I thought there's no way that he keeps going for it because it's so double-edged. But it looks like he really believes in the line.
He did indeed. He went right for it again. Magnus played a Benoni and mentioned in the confessional booth that even if he got a good position, it was still a Benoni. So. Yeah.
Well, Magnus has been dabbling in the Benoni, like the real Benoni, from the black side, with some success. So, if you're ready to play the Benoni with black, then this is about the best dream that you could get.
Yeah. Do you happen to know what Benoni means?
Son of Sorrow.
Everyone knows. I thought they
he knows
would make
everything.
It up.
Son of
I
Sorrow.
thought this was made up.
This was even, I had a press conference with Grishuk in 2018 during the candidates, where he played like a Grunfeld, but then I played e3, so transposed to a Benoni where white has played e3. And then there was a whole discussion about, like he said something about Son of Sorrow, and he was making, I don't know if they were jokes, or it was just Grishuk
being Grishuk.
And that was like my first recollection of the Son of Sorrow.
Event had been because of time. But what happened here? Ding Liren blundered against Magnus
Oh
Carlsen.
no, is that
he
the
just
checkmate
resigned?
on the board?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Queen!
Oh my gosh.
We were looking at earlier. No way! We were showing that this could happen, but he blundered it. The reigning world champion blundered. Queen takes h7.
We had this tactic on the board 20 minutes ago purely for educational purposes, because it was entertaining to show that this is the type of checkmate that the world champion would certainly never fall into. And it was also to highlight the key idea of why the bishop goes to d5, which you see Magnus did put the bishop on d5. And then it happened. Oh my gosh.
This is unbelievable. I don't think even Magnus believes that it happened, even though like that was the threat. But he plays rook e4 because that's a strong move that will bring the rook over to the king side. He wasn't playing